my name is Cosmodore. It's now been more than 23 years since I last talked about Spongebob SquarePants. We're currently on its 34th season. The Flying Dutchman's cousin Earl finally got his own spin-off series in stunning 5D. Zeus the Guitar Lord's guitar collection has expanded to a whopping 1, and I too paid due diligence to the season that actually managed to cause an outrage on the internet for maybe like a week or something, with SpongeBob Season 11, ranked from worst to best. Number 50. Okay, new rule. What if we went through this entire list without once mentioning this episode? Huh? No? Do I have to? Okay, but there won't be stuff you haven't already heard 800 times, so basically this just might be the worst episode of the series so far. Not just compared to what we've gotten so far that has dragged the series down already, but also on its own, even when you can't set your expectations real low. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see all the classic elements of modern SpongeBob you've come to know and despise. Observe the excruciating detail with which we can see the inside of Patrick Stoffer's armpits as he rips a band-aid of at half the speed of which should be acceptable. A solid 8 minutes of the episode, we see Squidward tentacles getting brutally mutilated. The lack of direction we witness that is only very poorly excused with them siphoning off Squidward's ink, which in itself takes the cake for grossest concept in all SpongeBob. And there's a spider? Listen, being a gross out episode is one thing, I can get behind that sometimes when executed well, but this one's just such a mean-spirited mess that I honestly couldn't blame anyone for not wanting to check out any more of the season after this experience. And it is an experience, I'll give it that, if not for the kind you would hope for. But you know what they say? When life gives you lemons, you throw them away because black lemons do not sound healthy. Number 49, Krabby Patty Creature Feature. Surprise, it's more gross out, if of the more creative kind, still enough to make me cringe hard enough to where I couldn't stand watching this one more than twice, even after giving it a second chance. I appreciate this one in theory for going back to that horror movie parody thing they did in previous seasons, and the resolution isn't as half-assed as I feared it would be, but I know for a fact I would have hated this if I was younger, which are mostly the viewers these are made for, and not 20-year-old hipster types like these two. Number 48, Cuddle E Hugs. I don't even know, dude. What is happening? Is this good? Is this comedy? I don't even know anymore. It's a real hamster. Great. Food poisoning, my favorite episode concept. Number 47, Pat the Horse. This one gives me peak vibe of we don't even care and aren't afraid to show it, at least in terms of concept. Patrick just kind of turns into a horse because plot and decides to not be in the end because plot. Your enjoyment of this one solely depends on what your tolerance level for complete nonsense episodes is, and I draw the line at Pat Jack Horsefish. Number 46, Squirrel Jelly. Did this need to be an elongated episode? What purpose did it serve other than to give us a reason to hate modern Sandy even more? The one that's just causing havoc wherever she goes and has an attention span of 40 seconds. How nice of them to return her to that version of herself by the end. I get worried for a moment there. Number 45, Pat Nokio. I already talked about this one in another video, and my thoughts on it remained exactly the same. It's a decent episode that, while not inherently awful, is just a Pinocchio adaptation with SpongeBob characters. One that didn't add anything original and was fluffed up with the goofy goober setting that I rather would have wanted to see added to literally any other episode where it actually had a purpose for being there. Number 44, Don't Feed the Clowns.
SpongeBob, are you mad? Clowns are dangerous animals.
I resent that. Number 43, Drive Happy. This is one of the more modern episodes in the realest sense, and I like that they're not afraid to add newer technology into the SpongeBob universe, but it ends up working as poorly as whenever any other long-running series decides to add stuff like it. Out of place and immersiveness ruining. Number 42, Call the Cops. This one is fascinating. I've probably seen it close to 4 times already, and I cannot for the life of me recall a single event that transpired. It baffles me how you can make an episode this bland and forgettable that I'd want to call good, if I could name a single positive about it to back up that claim, and therefore really can't call it awful either. Maybe there were time cops that erased my memory of it each time I saw it to preserve their secrets. Oh no. They're coming for me, aren't they? Number 41, Library Cards. Ever since Battle for Bikini Bottom, SpongeBob's library has always been one of the most fascinating settings in the show. And it's a shame they never did much with it, except for a few of the worst episodes of the show, and I really enjoyed what they did with it for the first half, like all the different book puns and parodies, or the inner workings of Patrick's mind, but how the rest of it is supposed to be anything more than a much weaker Patrick Smartpants is an enigma to me. Number 40, Doodle Dimension. Poor Doodlebob, man. Here you got one of the show's most iconic antagonists, yet you leave him out of the show for a solid 8 seasons, only to bring him back in one of the most by-the-numbers episodes so far. It's not that I didn't enjoy seeing him again, and I can admire the creativity at some points, but it just can't live up to the sheer iconicness of the original after so many years, even with more Doodle versions added to the other characters. I refuse to make a back to the drawing board joke here, so here is in Drawn to Life for the DS to cleanse yourself of the thought of me actually doing one.
And we're done just like that. That's how you say how we do in the Acrylic Arts fan club.
Number 39, Spin the Bottle. Now this is the genie we would have deserved. Number 38, Man Ray returns. The same problems that plague Doodle Dimension are present in this one too. You got one of the most iconic characters on the show where there's so much potential to bring him back in grand fashion, yet you don't really do anything with him you haven't already seen before. What this one lacks in animation, it definitely makes up for with the comedy, so it's not as guilty of being style over substance, but it's a bit of a missed opportunity nonetheless. Number 37, Whale Watching. It's the one Pearl episode in the season, and aside from the stop motion puppet bit near the end, nothing really stuck with me all that positively. I think Squidward is much more whiny than usual, and most of the characters here are very unlikable in general. It's great that there was some backstory between her and Squidward, and the payoff in the end almost makes it worth it, but there really should have been more of that, instead of everyday teenage problem number 78, that's like the only plot they give her anymore. Number 36, High Sea Diving. Great concept. I love the idea of these everyday items falling to the seafloor, and this being what even makes up the town of Bikini Bottom, and it's neat that SpongeBob gets to go to the shores, but the episode became really boring at times, and just a tad too preachy for my liking. Number 36, Shopping List. Great concept. I love the idea of all these everyday items making up SpongeBob's shopping list to distract Plankton, and it's neat that he follows them along for their spree, yet experiences each scenario so vastly different from them, but the episode became really boring at times and just a tad too for my liking. Number 34, Clam Whisperer.
Just look at all those majestic species. There's the soft-shell clam, the hard-shell clam, even a
Steamed clam. Obviously.
Number 33, Cave Dwelling Sponge. For being an episode mainly centered around an even more simple-minded version of SpongeBob, I found myself sympathizing with him far more than I expected, and actually enjoyed a few bits in this episode. Especially this joke.
Shortly thereafter, Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob went to City Hall to confront the wild beast.
We did?
There's nothing much wrong with this one in that department, but it also felt very calculated. Like, it tried really hard to make this character a reoccurring thing with the squeaking sound and then have a great return in like season 24 that makes this one more forgettable to me than I would like it to be, but could see others not feeling the same way about. Number 32, there's a sponge in my soup! You know, whatever this was, it was somewhat enjoyable. It's really weird that they would just upload 11 minutes of some restaurant security footage from the 60s and try to pass it off as a regular SpongeBob episode. That was a bit of an odd choice. Number 31, Fun-Sized Friends. There's some great physical comedy in this episode, and miniature-sized SpongeBob and Patrick are really adorable, which made me overlook how this is just the umpteenth shrinking episode, so kudos for that, I guess. Number 30, Moving Bubble Bass. Gotta say, this critic reboot is looking really promising. Number 29, Surf and Turf. So, if there was a contest to see who could make Mr. Krabs the most unlikable, then may the winner please step forth. I haven't felt this content with an ending to one featuring him in a while, and the resolution itself was also surprisingly clever. I didn't see it coming. Look, we even get to see Sandy's canonical parents, Candy and Randy. What do you mean that's already a character? Number 28, Teacher's Pests. I commend the writers for still coming up with original ideas for the show after all these years, though they appear much more rarely now, and this is such a simple one that works surprisingly well with Mr. Krabs and Plankton's rivalry in conjunction with SpongeBob's complete incompetence that makes for a fun, action-driven episode that kind of feels like it's over before it even begun, so I feel like they could have made more out of this, but what we got was pretty neat. Number 27, Bunny Hunt. Sea bunnies are real. I did not know this before watching the episode. They're real, they're adorable, and I want one. Though they're also really, really toxic. But then again, you only live once. I'd rather go out hugging a bunny than being diced by one. Number 26, no pictures please. The Title Zone series is one that I didn't know SpongeBob needed, but now makes me really stoked to see return whenever they see fit. It seems like a great way to spice up the occasional episode and allow for some unique ideas they wouldn't have been able to incorporate otherwise. And this was a pretty good one that I can sum up with one simple word: pretty good. Number 25, sanitation insanity.
Oh, all this fresh air feels great in my holes.
Oh look, that's in reference to the theme song. That's very cute. I love whenever shows do that. That's very clever. Number 24, Scavenger Pants. Sounds like such an exciting episode a la ARG, but ended up being more of a rehash of Good Neighbors. And as a fan of that episode, I think they did a good job at giving it more of a broad appeal, with very creative settings the two are being sent to, especially the ones you wouldn't normally see on the show. And they even brought back this face from the movie, though all it really does is make me want to rewatch the movie. Number 23, Appointment TV. Overbooked looks a lot more widescreen than I remember it. Next. Number 22, Plankton Paranoia. The visuals in this episode really save what could otherwise be a very predictable squeaky boots a clams rehash, though in theory it's a very clever episode idea. They do a lot more with it than you would think, and though Mr. Krabs isn't exactly the most likable here thanks to his paranoia, I'd say the ending makes up for that too. So some minor flaws, but still entertaining. Number 21, Chatterbox Gary. Don't make Gary a daddy, please. We didn't need this. You didn't need this. I didn't need this. I might have needed this, but... Number 20, Spot returns. What a solid season premiere. It did exactly what I hoped for in bringing Spot back. If not as a mainstay, he only appeared in one other episode, but they did seem to realize he was enough of a standalone character when compared to something like Mr. Krabs' Worm. So it was nice they gave him an episode of his own with all these cute little Spot babies that are almost a substitute for Plankton's cousins. Following up this one was The Checkup, and these two are about the same quality in my mind. It's weird how willing Squidward and Spongebob were to help out Mr. Krabs, which we see a surprising amount of, especially with Squidward, but their chemistry really made this episode work with their different disguises and just overall incompetence. I'm also surprised it took them this long to see the connection between Mr. Krabs and Larry, but it was well worth the wait. Number 18, Grandmom's the Word.
Hey, who's the wise guy?
Oh my goodness!
Number 17, Mustard O' Mine. Wow, this one's creative. To portray mustard as this rare ore they need to mine for, alongside all the other condiments needed for a Krabby Patty, it contradicts all known rules and will be forgotten about by the next episode, but as a new location for them to venture into, it made for some really fun gags like that escalator bit or the train scene. It could have been a longer episode if you ask me. Episodes like number 16, Goons on the Moon, really show that sometimes specials don't even need to feel like they're extended length. This one went by so quickly, I didn't even realize it wasn't just a regular episode. And aside from Pearl's friend, who didn't really have much involvement in the plot, there isn't much I could complain about here. It's great to see them do an actual proper episode of going to the moon after being sort of just inserted into for mooncation. This one felt like a proper exploration and made use of its surroundings, like with the dark side of the moon. The different asteroid belts they passed by were cool. Squidward slowly losing his mind in space got a good laugh out of me, and the fourth wall break they did here was pretty charming too. Number 15, Old Man Patrick.
Who lifted a pineapple under the sea? Absorbent and yellow and porous is he.
Another reference to the theme song. Okay, also charming, not as clever the second time around, I will admit. Number 14, Bubble Town. The tired old SpongeBob formula of harmless fun and wacky shenanigans with a lovable undersea sponge, I think we've all gotten a little sick of at this point, but ruthless annihilation of an entire city, including its citizens, in the blink of an eye? Now that's nautical. Number 13, Krusty Cleaners. There's a lot to unpack with this one. I think Krusty Cleaners captured the mundanity of a regular office bureau in contrast to SpongeBob and Patrick's carefree philosophy alongside the sheer insanity they cause really well. Alongside some great running gags like the security guard or that one guy who's just typing away on his keyboard without a care in the world. The visuals are fun, as is the twist that this company is actually developing tanks. I will say that it felt a lot longer than your typical episode, and I have yet to decide if that is a bad thing or not, but I really can't say I didn't enjoy myself. Number 12, The Grill is Gone. This one was storyboarded by Zach Hadel of Hellbenders fame, and it really shows. This is one of the most off-the-wall, insane episodes visually, with some of the craziest expressions in the series. Some really fun lines sprinkled in there that'll ensure that your boredom is gone. Number 11, Bottle Burglars.
Sorry. Stepped on my tail.
SpongeBob's a furry now, this is canon. We're entering the top 10 with Girls' Night Out. 3 of my favorite underutilized or unfairly flanderized characters getting to voice their frustrations over their respective foils? Sign me up! Karen has already become a much more integral character to Plankton in this season, to where she actually feels like a proper wife with emotions and needs. And I love the way they expanded on that here, while Mrs. Puff shines with her temper, with Sandy keeping things in check. They have a great chemistry that I'm sure could have improved upon that had they included Pearl voicing her frustrations with her dad, or some boy at school she's had a falling out with that could have added some further relief to the whole thing, but I'm thankful for what we got. Gal Pals! Number 9, Squid Noir. I won't lie, I've got a soft spot for noir episodes like this one. Where's Wanda or Bimo Noir? If executed well, it can add a special flavor to otherwise mundane scenarios, and this one makes full use of that, and Roger Bumpass, who absolutely nailed his performance. The mystery felt real, and you didn't see the twist coming, which seems to often be the issue with episodes like it, but their interrogations and the overall aesthetic choices with Mr. Krabs' dress up for instance, keep the plot moving at a swift yet atmospheric pace, making this feel like much more than just a novelty episode. Number 8, Larry the Floor Manager. You guys know how much I enjoy Larry. His gym episode was one of my favorite episodes last season, and many of the elements that made that one special are present here, as they made great comedic use of the contrast between the different outlooks on fitness and dieting in this one. I loved how in the end Larry was finally able to let loose and enjoy himself for once, and the different ways all his training equipment was utilized inside the Krusty Krab were fun too. My packs weren't sad. My single pack wasn't sad watching this one. Number 7, The Night Patty. Let's be real, a graveyard shift type episode with the citizens of Rock Bottom had to make for a fun episode. You got all these different monsters with their unique designs, the grand return of Nosferatu of all characters, an employee switcheroo a la Animal Crossing's Pally and Phyllis. This was the first time the title zone returned unannounced, and though you could have figured things were a lot stranger than usual already, it makes them get away with a lot of stuff that normally could pass for lazy writing, like a random spider inside the restaurant or SpongeBob cooking a man alive. I just really like the tone of episodes like this one. Halloween season's just around the corner, and I honestly may just binge a bunch of these SpongeBob episodes taking place at night. This one's a great example for one. Number 6, Karen's Virus.
Hey, catchy song.
Guys, we get it. The show had a theme song, you literally make us listen to it with each and every episode. It doesn't get any funnier the more you reference it. But this episode is great. You get this complete shift in art direction towards something you may have seen on that one Trios of Horror segment, and is honestly what the one from Atlanta Square Panthers could have been, as the visuals here really give the episode a certain charm. And it's great that we get the side plot of Karen bumbling around the Krusty Krab at the same time to fluff it up. The caricatures of each of the characters and how she envisions them also add a ton to her character and allow us to get an insight into the inner workings of her mind, making for a tense, visually interesting episode. At number 5 we got Gordon Ramsay SpongeBob, the character we didn't know we needed but made all our lives so much sweeter. SpongeBob's stage fright is an all too relatable scenario for many, so his coping mechanisms of essentially putting on a persona that takes on a life of its own is a surprisingly intricate metaphor for the show. Either that, or it's just an excuse for them to riff on the characters, which, you know, worked either way. It's kinda like a more extreme squirrel jokes, to where it's less observational humor and just insulting people for the sake of it, which would have been very annoying had it come from any of the regular characters, but the fact that it's just this harmless looking hand puppet made it so fun to see it get his comeuppance and all the other puppet designs in return. Finally, some good frickin' SpongeBob. Number 4!
My leg?
How do you make an 11-minute episode about a single one-note running gag of a character work? I don't know. Ask whoever was in charge of this one. My Leg doesn't need a My Leg compilation. My Leg is its own compilation. The first minute or two of this episode moves at such a rapid speed that it takes your brain some time to even get used to. It's all based on the same joke, which easily could have become annoying, but this episode struck a great balance between a typical hindrance SpongeBob has to deal with and the hindrance itself, Fred just trying to go about his day with all the leg-related casualties that come with it. Top it off with one of the catchiest songs the show has had, and you get an episode with tons of rewatchability that, rather than ruining a running gag, enhances it, making it so not just his leg is in love. Number 3, Stuck on the Roof. The Krusty Krab seems like one of those locations in Bikini Bottom that no matter how many times we see it, it never ceases to come up with new surprises that completely alters its very appearance or the scale of which we're talking, and is one of the very few times this one takes place outside it. Spongebob getting stuck on the roof, which makes for some great slapstick and gives you an actual claustrophobic feeling as he's out there all alone on the rooftop. It's very creative and how he tries making a life all by himself worth living up there and to make the best out of his situation. And we don't just see SpongeBob flipping patties with a newfound perspective, but also Squidward living his best life in the newly vacant old Krusty Krab, only to get buried alive with it. There's a very classic SpongeBob feel about this one in the way it's paced and the concept alone that I think anyone watching this can appreciate. Its sweetness, joke density, and atmosphere make it highly rewatchable to me, though it doesn't quite sit on the very roof of this list. Number 2, The String. If Stuck on the Roof was the best regular length episode of this season, The String is the best short. Probably cause it's the only one in it. It turned an all too familiar nuisance into a snappy, almost Looney Tunes-like short, with great sound design, clever visuals, a SpongeBob filling up the whole town, and fun running gag with Squidward's various outfits. This one's honestly more fun to just enjoy on your own, so I invite you to check it out, as it's easily one of the most creative episodes of the season, if not the entire show. But the number 1 episode in that is Legend of Bikini Bottom. Criticize the shift in art direction all you want. If it means having a higher budget to work on episodes like this, I'd be willing to go a whole season depraved of creativity just for one more like it. As your local Halloween special nut, it's no surprise that getting another one from one of my favorite shows would get me excited, but I can't say a fully stop-motion animated one complete with fluorescent neon-lit corridors of meticulously designed ghost trains was what I expected, as all of Bikini Bottom was recreated using this technique just like it was for It's a SpongeBob Christmas. Unlike that episode, it lends itself well to this technique and isn't just style over substance, and has a story to tell as well that, though similar to Scatty Pants, goes through many more different stages of character growth, especially in SpongeBob, than that episode thanks to its extended runtime. It's great to see him so numb to anything their friends try to throw at him to scare them, and Patrick, who was initially the one to even give him this advice, slowly backed down on his own claims. He seems legitimately frightened, again very well visualized through the stop motion and the different techniques used to make something that might have actually frightened me as a kid. Like that whole bit about SpongeBob running around without a skeleton that made him look like a Muppet. It's some very fun stuff. I especially like Mr. Krabs and Plankton trying to best themselves spoofing the other restaurant and any scene with the Flying Dutchman in it, and though he's only in here for half the episode, there's not any downside to the first half either. If anything, it's even more creative in its prop design. The only part I didn't particularly care for was that whole 2D segment inside SpongeBob's head near the end, where you can tell their budget was likely cut in half, but they definitely still made the best with it. And God, was it worth it. I can't wait to add watching this one to my list of Halloween traditions alongside The Nightmare Before Christmas. There, I said it. It's a Halloween movie. Now shut up.
But it takes place during Christmas, too.
I said shut